This is problem 8 off the linear application sheet. In this case, we are asked to find the average if your 4 test scores are worth 18.75% of the final grade and your final exam is worth 25% of your grade. Let's assume, first of all, let's just talk about how to actually do the calculation if everything were known. In other words, let's assume that you had these 4 test scores, 80, 90, 85, and 88, and got a 96 on the final exam. How would you just actually calculate the final grade? In this case, what you would literally do is take 18% of each score. So in decimal form, that'd be 0.1875 times 80, plus 0.1875 times 90, 0.1875 times 85, and 0.1875 times 88. Plus, the final exam score is worth 25% of your grade, so we'll multiply your final exam score of 96, that should be 96, not 960 by the way, times 0.25. Now let's actually do the calculations here. These calculations, 18% of the 80 came out to be 15, 18% of the 90 came out to be 16.875. Of the 85, here's the calculation, 18% of 88, here's the calculation, 25% of my 96 came out to be this. Adding all of those up gives me the total of 100% of my final grade, which in this case calculates to be 88.3125. Now in this case, however, we did not actually know all the scores. If you read the actual problem in your textbook, all we knew, on Blackboard, all we knew were the first 2 scores of 80 and 75. So in this case, all we really knew was to take 18.75% of my 80, my 18.75% of my 75, and everything else was unknown. So basically I'm going to do the same calculation as I had above it. I'll take 18.75% of X, 18.75% of my X, and 25% of my X. Now you'll notice in this case it's totally legitimate to have X stand for all 3 things, because the question asked, what would the average score have to be, implying that essentially you need to have the same score on all 3 papers in order to get that average. So since X actually stands for the same thing in all 3 cases, this is a legitimate way to go about solving this problem. Anytime that X stands for the actual same number, you can get away with this. Now let's just solve it algebraically. Performing the actual calculation, if I take just the arithmetic and do the calculation here, I get 29.0625. Combining my like terms leaves me with a total of 0.625x. Again, the total grade, don't forget, I forgot to mention that, was supposed to equal 89.5. So of course that's what I want the whole thing to add up to. To solve this, I'll subtract my 29.0625 from both sides of my equation. That leaves me with the 0.0625x on the left and 60.4375 on the right. I'll now divide both sides by 0.0625 and it will leave me with the final answer of approximately 96.7%. So in other words, you would need to score an average at least of 96.7% on all your remaining work to end up with a grade of 89.5. Now I would like you to notice that you also could have worked this out as an inverse proportion. You could have looked at this as if you had an average of 77.5, the average of the original 2 scores, and that would have been a total of 37.5% of your grade. So I could have said I have 37.5% of my grade, and my grade thus far is a 77.5. Now the remaining part of my grade must be the 62.5%. What grade would I need on that in order to mix these 2 things together and end up with a grade of 89.5%? I'll let you work it out from there, but you'll recall you can tell how to do this by how far different this actual final is from the grade that you want. How far different is this final average of 89.5 from your 77.5, and how far different is that from your unknown x? I'll let you take it from there, but that's how you'd work it out as an inverse proportion problem.